Hello, hi God. Okay, I need your help with this one. I know. I need to do better next time, right? Anyway, leo niko na mob ya kukushow. Welcome to Life Reframe Podcast episode 4. Yay, guys! I am thrilled. Yani, I am over the clouds to imagine that we are already here in episode 4. Who would have thought? And it is your host, Njumbi. Karibuni sana to every new listener who's listening to me right now and also my returning listeners. Let me tell you something. Last week, I delayed to post up the episode that was supposed to go up. And I had some people on my DMs like, hey, kwani this week you're not releasing an episode or something like that. And I was like, oh, you guys are so sweet. Kumbe mnanisikizanga. You know, sometimes you just think you're speaking to this wall or to yourself. It's like a venting. It's like you're just venting to yourself. Only that now actually people are listening to the event. So it felt so good that people actually noticed that, yeah, there's a delay, but it still went up. I'm so grateful for your feedback, for your love, for the subscriptions, for the shares. And it just means the world to me. As long as I can change or make even if one person feel good, that is my aim for this podcast. So karibuni sana. So for all the new listeners, this podcast is about God, love, life, and mental health. So if you know that those are your topics, please stay tuned. And even if they're not your topics, please just still stay tuned because there's always something to take home. And today I have a very sensitive topic that I want to speak about, and that's depression. And that's a word that we use throwing around sometimes because when you're broke, when you're low, you're just from a breakup, you just resigned your job and now you don't know what to do. We just call it depression. Aki niko depressed. Aki na feel depressed. It's like for you, you're assuming it's saying you're stressed, but we use that word instead. Maybe a lot more than we should. And I thought today maybe we could have a conversation around this theme. And before we even delve into that, I wanted us to check on Google and see what exactly depression means so that we can go with the flow, okay? And as I can say, depression is a mood disorder that causes a persistent feeling of sadness and loss of interest, also called major depressive disorder or clinical depression. It affects how you feel, think, and behave and can lead to a variety of emotions and physical problems. Unfortunately, with this term, depression, it is a very stigmatized term, especially in our African and definitely Kenyan culture, whereby it would not make sense for you to go and tell your parent, Aki mom niko depressed, Aki dad niko depressed. They fail to understand, especially if your parents have been there for you to take you to school, you're educated, you're probably even having a job that you're working. Maybe even things look like they're going fine by you. And then you go tell someone that you're feeling depressed, especially the older generation. They will not even get it. They will not understand why you're being depressed. So you find that parents will dismiss you off with statements like, you just pray and God will just help you through. Or, mbona uko na ugonjwa za wazungu? Or, hizo ni maugonjwa za kujiekelea. Kwanza that statement is used a lot. Hizo ni maugonjwa za kujiekelea. And probably you're just going through a very traumatic time, maybe in whatever capacity, that all you want, actually depressed people, it's not more of a money situation. It's more of a, I am here with you. I am going to experience this with you. I relate with you. I understand you. I got you. That's all that person who is depressed wants to feel. They want to feel that they're not dealing with that situation by themselves in whatever capacity. But for the longest time, there's always been that stigmatization around depression. People don't want to be around depressed people too. Ukianza kwambia mtu shida yako leo, and then tomorrow you tell them the same problem. And the day after you tell them the same problem, you'll realize that over time, they don't want to be associated with you because mtu anashanga, kwani hiyo shida zake hazishangi? Why are they complaining about the same problem? Why can't they do anything about it? Why can't Why don't they figure out a situation to get themselves out of it? Not really knowing how crazy it is going on for you in your head. And you'll also find that 1 person to 4 people is depressed. Can you imagine that ratio? Ni kidogo sana, ni kumaanisha when you're in a room of 10 people, you have 2 people or rather 3 people depressed. So it's a very serious situation, and unfortunately we are at a disadvantage because it's not like our parents went through any prior understanding of depression. In fact, how our parents were raised was tough love. Walikuwa wanapigwa, they used to be given treatments when they kosead in very harsh ways. So unfortunately, for majority of us, that has been transferred to us through the way we were raised, the situations that we found ourselves growing into. We were never free per se with our parents because the one thing that you really want to ask or get an info about, it may just end up in chaos or kelele, or our parents have very similar traits. And that's why you find even when you're going to speak to someone, mtu anakuambia ati mamako ni mkali, mamangu ni mkali kuliko mamako. Like it was always like a competition of whose parents was more mkali than the other one. Damn, that is very, very messed up. And unfortunately, now you telling your parent that you are now going through all these things, and then you get a parent who is just like, wewe ni hiyo ni uzembe sasa inakusumbua, siuamke uende utafute kazi. They are not understanding that it gets to a situation where your emotions are now entrapped into a cycle of sadness, crying, demotivation, feeling like a cabbage, and even worst case scenario, feeling suicidal. Like depression is so bad, inafikanga mahali hata aufungui curtains, hautaki hata kukula, hakuna kitu inakupendeza. Yani you can have everything. Like hata unaweza kwa si necessarily a money issue. Let's even assume this person has money. Ako na do, ako na matei hapo hivyo, angetaka kunywa na kunywa. Hata hizi kunywa hadi inafika point anaziangalia tu hivi. Hazitamani, hauwashangi TV, you never text anyone. When people call you, you don't pick up. Replying to a text is a task. Like hiyo ni kama kutuma mjengo msee. It is so hard. Just you don't even want to shower, you don't want to cook, you don't want to clean, you barely want to do anything. If for any chance ungepewa tu hiyo chance, ukaitu kwa hiyo mattress yenye probably utatoa hadi bedroom ukuje nayo sitting room, kwa sababu yani it's just a very confusing feeling of aloneness. It's a dark pit of only you can get yourself out of there. Yani you can be depressed and still be around people. Do you know how? Can you imagine the darkness in that? Like uko na watu but uko lonely, uko peke yako. You around a crowd of people but you're not even not even an inch close. And explaining that to people who have not gone through that as well is also hard, because you find that it's not everyone who is being depressed. Kuna watu bado, even in right now as the economic times are hard, the people who are living large, they are living by, they are getting by the means. So you who is dealing with this depressive episode, anashinda tu kuelewa. Leo namcall unamwambia manze, mtoto wangu hata hajaenda shule, hata sijaweza kufanya nini na nini na nini, rent yangu iko due, sijalipa, hata landlord ananiambia atanifungia nyumba. And they think it's a money problem, and they just send you money and that's it. And now when you're just trying to call them tu uongeleshe tu usikie kai, at least kuna mtu ananisikia, they just start now ignoring your calls because they are like thinking huyu anataka tu do. Sometimes si pesa, by the way. Sometimes someone just wants a call to hear that there's someone at least they can listen to, they can vent to, and they're not going to be judged, they're not going to be looked down upon, and they're going to be made feel better than even how they were feeling earlier. As I earlier mentioned, we're at a disadvantage because our parents didn't know any better. Like, there was no education on mental health. In fact, kitambo, this could be like you're mad, unapelekwa madhare, because what is this that you're feeling? It's not a normal people feeling. That you just want to chill in the house and close the curtains and just chill there like a cabbage. Huyu amechizi. Huyu ni zile bangi alianza kutumia. Huyu ni ile pombe. And Mathare is your home, my friend. So if those were the grandparents, how will we expect that our parents will do any better? So I try to give the older generation some grace, because my opinion though, I feel like that is the first generation that actually experienced not the depression that we normally speak about. So you can imagine growing up in a certain way with certain values, certain mindsets, and now you're living in a century, in a generation that is so different from what the principles, the morals that you stood by from Kitambo, and now you're getting to indulge in it more and more. You end up realizing so much more that you didn't know earlier on, na si makosa yako. Because our grandparents didn't know any better. Kwanza hao, the women were watu wa nyumbani, the men were the ones who were going out. There was nothing to speak about ati you're the ones who are having a say. Now, right now, we are dealing with a situation where our parents are now understanding themselves a bit better. Some of them end up being bitter because they feel like they could have done maybe a way better job. Or some of them just don't know how to change from the whole scenario kwa sababu ye bado wako rigid with the ways of how things should be, even when we are in a very, very different generation. So this depression thing is a loop, and unless you cut it yourself, you might end up supplying that same loop or cycle to your kids, and it would be very, very unfortunate. When I think about it, personally, I tend to imagine just like everything else evolves, also diseases evolve. And something like depression might not have been looked maybe like 20 years or 10 years ago as like quite this so serious kind of disease, because it is, people used to dismiss it as you just need to work hard, just a little bit extra hard, or you need to be a bit extra patient and everything will be fine. You can't just, it can't be all that bad, and over time it just continued getting bigger and deeper, and it eats you, it engulfs you up to a point where you died of suicide, and people are wondering, why would you kill yourself? Like you had everything. But then they didn't quite know that you needed way more than just the everything that you had. Kitambo, there's nothing much to compare to, and there's nothing much that we were consuming. Therefore, our minds could only consume and handle whatever we can see, or whatever was just close by to us. But right now, we are in a space where you can consume information that's even in Russia, Antarctica, Canada, Australia, wapi, literally anywhere and everywhere. And with all this information just being taken in and taken in and taken in, it gets to a point where your mind now is confused of really, what am I? Who am I? What are my values? Because you're consuming so much. So you can imagine after giving it so much content to consume. You woke up in the morning to evening and all you ever did was scroll. This content is just coming to harm us. And you end up realizing that we have so much exposure over all the things that are happening in the world that some of it might affect us subconsciously. Like you see why people nowadays will be like, me, don't watch news. It's because when you don't watch it and you don't have any access to that information, then you have safeguarded your mind from having a particular kind of stress. Because every day you wake up and there are new taxes, and more taxes, and this tax, and you're looking at your income, it's stagnant. In fact, some of them, many people have been laid off over the years, and It's a very depressive state. So you having to consume that kind of information every single day, and you being told how much the cost of living is still going to become even twice or thrice as crazy, boy, girl, it will harm us. We are exposed to all these love lives. Some of them are very fake, some of them are real. Because kuna wenye unajua hawa watu na unaona yenye hawa kenye wanapost ni ukweli wanakuanga hivi. But kuna pia wengine wengi wenye wamepost vitu hata haziko. And you'll realize that all of us post up our photos when it's the highlights. And only few moments, very, very few moments when it's our low. And mostly it's when maybe there's a death of a loved one. That's maybe when we will post up. But we don't post up when we're having fights with that relationship, in that relationship. We don't post when we are sleeping hungry. We don't post when we are going through a very sad space or hardship at work. And those are the moments that people don't see. So if every time your mind is only eyeballing on highlights, your mind gets tricked to feel like your life should be highlights like that. Your life should be as we are seeing. Atufai kuko huku tunaona highlights na wewe maisha yako hapa hivi venye una struggle. Hata hujapata job for the last 3 months. You've been living on debts of people. You can't even pay up that debt even if you wanted. Now you've lost all the friends because who even wants to hang out with a broke person? Or your parents are also not in the best position, so they can't help you. And you are so stressed at that point, wondering, what am I doing wrong? Ni nini hiyo ninafaa kuwa nikifanya ndio vitu zikuwe better? Why are things not working out? But it's because of the consumption of all these highlights and highlights and highlights and highlights, because Instagram zima ukiscroll from uko jadi kwingine ni highlights tu. Mara mingi ni highlights. Few lowdowns, but mostly ni highlights. So we are tricking our minds to thinking that that's what the life we should be living should be. And that's taking a toll on us because our minds can only hold too much. And when it's feeling like the reality it is living to whatever it is being fed is not working out, it starts now working against you. And that's where now the devil finds his way to come and just condemn you and tell you how much you are not anything, how much 2 years have passed and you've not gotten any job. So what makes you think you'll get a job right now? In fact, you've been out for so long. Do you even remember the skills that you were learning? You're not even confident enough to go back to that space. All those things, those two negative thoughts start getting created. And then now your mind starts absorbing those thoughts. Because our mind, we are what our minds are. We are the products of our mind. That's what I'd say. We are the products of our minds. Because every time tunashinda tu tukijiambia sasa nitamani jata kufika hivyo. Manze nani aliget married, alipata hadi gari, hata sahi hata wamepata mtoto. Mi niko tu hapa, niko single, hata sina food ya kesho, hata sahi tu nimekula mayai tu zenye zimebaki za mwisho. You're looking at other people and you're like, Aki, these other moms are killing it. Me, I'm here raising this child by myself. Why am I doing this by myself? Why did I have to go through this? And you now start feeding your mind all those negative thoughts. And before you know it, you're in the pits. And my opinion is, for us to have gotten to this space, it's because we were always meant to feel like we have and we ought to be somewhere. Like, you ought to be doing something. You can't just be resting. Atujaifunzwa, you can rest in the wait. We have never even been taught that there is a wait. You can wait. Relax. Yani hata nyumbani tu, I can attest, maybe 99% can even attest, that ukiwa nyumbani tu umechilivia tu umeinua tu miguu kwa kiti, especially when we were a bit younger, mzazi alikuwa tu zileza. Sasa wewe umekaa chini na uko nje kujafagiliwa. Maybe ulifagia jana, ni leaves 3 tu zimeanguka. But you're made to feel like, no, you need to be out there doing and getting it and, crushing it, and you ought to be somewhere. You ought to be somewhere. And you just realize that I feel like that's where it also could have started, because that's a moment you're a child, ka jana ulifagia na bado uko sawa, hizo leaves tatu hazitafanya anything. But then in our parents' minds, wakisema hivyo ni you don't become lazy, so that you're not lazy, so that uko umechangamkia life. But when you look at it keenly, it's like our grandparents are the ones who made them be like that, because they used to be told how wewe ukikaa hapo tu umezubazuba, hiyo ni uzembe, and it wasn't allowed. It was a taboo. It was feeling like a taboo in olden times, and so they continued following that culture to us. Like, even when we were supposed to just be babies, we were not babies. And this can be seen in psychology when you talk about developmental stages, where you see that there are habits and things and traits that you carry from your childhood, where there are things you were neglected from a child, and maybe ulipita stages zingine, and now you're reliving in, regression inakuja 1,000,000%. You're doing those things at an age that is not supposed to be, and ni jua tu kualaiwa kukua who we were. You just wanted to be a child, but remember, hapana, you can never sit down, and if your mother is seeing you sitting down, it just has to be you're sick. You just had to be sick. There is no way you're just chilling and watching TV and just relaxing. Why are you relaxing? So I feel like this is also something that just started from kitambo, and it continued growing into us, and we developed something I normally call it destination syndrome. And I also know it's called destination addiction, or you can also call it destination anxiety. And for those who don't know what I'm speaking about, destination addiction is when you believe that success is a destination. Those people are addicted to the idea that the future is where success is, happiness is, and heaven is. Each passing moment is merely a ticket to the future. And so when you listen to that statement, and you're ukweli, because we are always feeling like if you have not been able to achieve a certain thing that you really, really wanted to do, it makes you so stressed that you feel depressed. You want to be able to open up that business and ensure it is running the way your mind is telling you that it should run. And now, when it doesn't happen to be so, you go depressed. And you go depressed because you feel like that's where you ought to be. You ought to have been able to achieve that goal. You ought to have been able to open that business. You ought to have been able to get through that marriage. You ought to have been able to convince that man to take care of your child. You feel like success, and when happiness could have been achieved is when you've gotten to that destination of whatever you want. And unfortunately, most times they're not. Getting to the destination is a journey, which we forget. At that very moment, we are dying for instant gratification of the fact that right now, I want it right now and I can get it right now. And when it's not able to right now, especially now that I'm so anxious, agitated, and in need of right now, then it takes you to a space where you're feeling all those emotions of sadness, feeling low, demotivated, you don't want to do anything. And it's just because we are so fixated on the destination, forgetting getting to the destination requires for you to be in a journey. You have to experience the pain of the wait, because no one tells you how much pain you go through when you're waiting for something. The pain of the wait is it's crazy. And I know, like, when you're single, you're just there like, oh my God, what am I doing wrong? Why am I not getting the right person? Why is everything about relationship and me not even close to what I imagine or want? And it puts you in a feeling of hopelessness, helplessness. You've been waiting for this job to mature and give you something back. You've been waiting in this period of unemployment, and especially kwanza na economy venye inatutwanga kigai. Yani uko so broke, aujui mbele nyuma, uko na mtoi, job haijipi, probably hata una job, rent ndio hiyo landlord, umekuwa na madeni za wasisa hiyo anakupigia masimu, unasikia tu hata ukate hiyo simu itupe kwa sababu what for? As in me, hata nataka tu kuenda kwa baba juu I can't handle this earth stresses. And I know majority of the people are going through that right now. Right now is a very difficult time. A very difficult time. Even the people who used to spend are now spending wisely, because si ile yenye ulikuwa unajua tu bado utakuwa nayo. Kesho yake unaamka unapata kampuni zinafunga kufunga. Unaenda hivi job unapata there are layoffs, we are sorry, there is nothing we could do about it. And imagine hakuna kitu unaweza ambia umse. Hakuna kitu unaweza mwambia. You just pack up your things, the things, if you have even things. Unarudi home. Sasa hii watu wana go through very difficult times. Alafu unaambia nani shida yako. Manze mimi nakuja kuchapia shida yako. Unanigongana yako kwanza hata naona wacha hata ni nyamazi yangu, mimi niko tu sawa. But you see, I haven't solved my problem. I haven't been able to share my problem. Because maybe your problems are so big that you actually feel at the end of the day that maybe I should take care of yours first, or maybe listen to you first. And taking care doesn't mean ati ni lazima ati ni a monetary thing. Maybe unafeel tu wacha umpatie more of a listening ear yeye, juu yenyewe ukikompare hizo mashida mbili si the same. But usawa hata uko na shida. Imagine inafikanga point now no one is speaking about their problems. Everyone is now trying to act happy. Because you're feeling like if you go tell someone your problems, you're a burden to them. And that's why many people are even getting so depressed now. The chronic depression, anxiety, na kwa so bado tu anashinda na panic attacks. All those things are getting to them because they could not find a source of venting or an outlet to just sell out their frustrations. And it just sucks because, destination anxiety. What? Unakaa chini hivi unaona magaldem wako ndio hao, they are getting married, they are killing it in business, they are holding high positions, some of them are even buying, yani msi anaenda na buy gari, so zenye wewe hata una chakula ya kukula, you see people killing it and smashing it all over the internet, kwa sababu see that's all we want. Si tunatafuta hiyo dopamine, the dopamine is gotten from this highlight scrolling. And when you see all these things that are happening for your friends, you just keep wondering, what am I doing wrong? Maybe you are a single mom and you are struggling. And it's sometimes just that they're like, me ata sasa, you envy the single girls because you're like, mi ata hiri wewe, we ata usipate mtoi. Get mtoi at the right time. Don't even, mwanaume, you get married at the right time because of the way you are frustrated. And totally understand those people, because I have also had my frustrations and at some point imposed my feelings to some people, but the single person is now crying on the other end, feeling like, what is wrong with me? Right now I should have a kid, I should be married to a nice guy like so and so. Nato huyo mwenye ako na so and so wako na mashida, maybe wako na even other deeper financial or emotional or spiritual or psychological problems wanadeal nazo, zenye maybe wewe ungepewa ungeoptuka hiyo single na hata usiwahi angalia nyuma. Unajua? And for men, dear men, mmesikia hadi nimewaita dear men. Manze, kujeni hapa kwanza ni wa console, ni wapatie ka hug, kwa sababu you'll also go through the mud. Imagine you're the provider, and I'm speaking to those who are the providers, those who know wanajitumanga every single day, na manze sometimes inakataa kujipa. This is for those guys. That guy mwenye you enda grind, na hiyo siku inakataa tu kujipa. This is for you. Unaona that guy mwenye anakuanga mwenye ame hustle for such a long time na kutafuta job na bado haiget. This is for you. Mi naongelea tu for all the guys wenye wanajitumanga. Manze guys, I am sorry for the things that sometimes you go through, and we are never there to just consider that you actually also go through these stresses. And when if us as women can also put ourselves in your shoes, it is hard to provide. Unaamka asubuhi ufikirie kwenye chakula inatoka, kwenye rent inatoka, kwenye nywele ya msupa inatoka, na kucha, na nguo, na kale ka date night kenye unafaa kumpeleka, nakaa uko na gari venye utaifuel the whole month, na venye, hey bro, kitu kidogo imespoil hapo, kitu fulani ilionekana, babe. What do you think about this? Like, we rely on you a lot in terms of provision. And I applaud all the men who provide for their families with all the pride and love, with all the excitement, because I know men, I have met men who will provide hata saa zenye hana. Yani mtu leo ameenda tu akarudi tu na ama akamanage tu kupata 50 bob, ama whatever way, whatever amount, amemanage tu kupata chakula ya kurudi nayo nyumbani. I applaud you guys because you all go through it. Yani wanaume wangepatiwa tu ka chance waende tu wakae chini na wanaume wenzao wakuweka wa mama venye tunaweza ongea. You know how ladies we can patana somewhere and you don't even know each other, but you can vent and vent and vent and just say how life is hard. If men were able to watolewe ako ka ego na ako ka masculinity fulani kana wazibanga kuweza kuongea, you would be shocked of all the things these men are going through. And so all of us in a society, we are going through the most. And I feel for y'all men, because unfortunately for you have been taught to be strong. You have been taught you're the man. Be a man. You can't cry. Be a man. You can't fail to go to work. Toka kwa nyumba. Mwanaume si wa kukaa kwa nyumba. Sasa hizi ni nini umeleta? Una 50 bob. Unanipeleka date kwa kibandaski. Can you imagine all the rejection that men face? And unfortunately, that's like a fate of the years until they get a woman who can love them. And I'll get to a topic about love maybe in another episode, but in this, I realized that the only woman who chooses to love you as a man is your wife or your woman or your girlfriend. That is the only woman who chooses, and I'll repeat, who chooses to love you. Your mom loves you because you're the son. Your sister loves you because you're the sibling. Your cousins love you because they're your cousins. Like, your wife or your girlfriend is the only woman who chooses to love you for who you are. Anakaa chini anasema, umse kajaivana bado, but bado nitasukumana na wewe. Umse ni mse mpoa, najua kuna kitu tunaweza jenga na yeye. That is the only person who chooses you. And for men nowadays, you're barely getting that. Unajua? Lakini there's a whole episode that will come about that, and I would prefer that I had also a panel on it, because it's a very complex situation as to why we even got to a space where maybe men are failing to get the women that they want, or the women failing to get the men that they want, because also women are suffering. Imagine someone who is supposed to rest in their femininity just to become a woman, to support, to nurture, to grow the home. I hear that we are multipliers. You're given a house, you make it a home. You're given a sperm, you make a baby. As in, tunakwanga tu producers. Like, kazi yetu ni kukaa chini kuangalia hii pesa umekuja na 100,000 ni nini tunaweza ifanyia. We are the managers of the home. We are the ones who decide how things go, how things run. So if you're a king with a good queen, my friend, hiyo ni empire. However bad mna feel situation yenu iko, as long as you have a king who is also willing to be the good king, you will thrive as a queen. So, unfortunately, hata women sasa wana go through the burden of provision. So a woman is failing to rest in her femininity because she has to also take up some masculine self of her. Unajua, hii kuhustle, kutoil and moil, kudo late hours, kufanya all the hard work. That was work given to men by God. As a woman, we were not built for that. And so women are finding it hard every single day, trying to get the balance between work and life and themselves and kids and being a sister and being a mother, and all these things are not making sense for them at some point in time. So they are getting depressed, and that's why even majority in the statistics, it states that majority of the people who are more depressed are women more than men, because women go through it. First of all, tusisahau tuko na hormones zinashindanga zikichange in cycles, like in a month 30 days go through 4 changes. Kuna the face yenye hata utakangi hata kukaribia, utaki kuguzwa, utaki anything to do with a man, hata uko moody udai your story. The next face you're so mushy, oh my god, I want you, I love you, I want to be close to you. The next one uko too moody udai story, you're in pain, your body is shit when you're going through your menses, and then now you're going through the ovulation. Like, bro, we go through a lot of emotions, and combining just the natural factors that just affect us as being human beings, like being a woman in general is already work. Wewe tu coexist as a woman is work. Now add responsibilities where you have to manage a home. Mtoto alifanya homework, house girl alipika the right thing, maziwa isipikangwe nini lita moja, utumianga half a liter maybe. Hiyo mchele mnatumia so much, mnamaliza tissue haraka sana. Mbona hapa hivi hapa Joshua vizuri? Like, I can see why the woman is going crazy. You see, the man is going crazy because, and this is not to be double standard, I totally know how the stresses of a man are in terms of how I've related and seen how they go through it. But it's the fact that now they deal with the big monster of, I need to find money to be able to provide this, and this need. But for a woman, we have to ensure, even we're ensuring the nitty-gritties are well done. You know, like ensuring the nitty-gritties are all well done is way much hard work, because unafanya tu vitu twingi tudogo but twingi, and getting a balance out of that is so crazy. So you find that, manze sai kwenye tumefika, life hata hai make sense kwa watu wengi. Many people are just living and walking zombies in town. If you were supposed to just simamisha anyone in town and just ask them what they are going through, you would be so shocked. Because watu wengi wako na stress mingi sana, na hawajui waambie nani, hawajui hata wadili nazo aje. Our parents were not as people as open enough, maybe for most of the people, to open up and have such conversations with. And so it just makes them just continue growing with that kind of fear. And it just sucks. It just makes one feel so helpless. And I'm sorry for everyone. I'm so sorry for everyone who is going through such a hard time. I just want you to know that this world, uko peke yako. And if anyone ever wanted to speak to someone, please, by all means, I am here. My DMs are open. I could not miss a minute or two to speak to y'all who are going through whatever you're going through, and as anonymously as possible. Just me and you. Because life imekuwa ngumu sana, tuna need mtu mwenye tunaweza ongelesha. But now, on the flip side, on the beautiful side out of depression, today I was speaking to someone, and it happened. I was speaking to someone, and then those words that I was speaking to them about spoke back to me. And I remembered the Lord's Prayer. You know, we say, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So first of all, everything we are going through, we need to understand that it's God's will. Because even before we were formed in our mother's wombs, He knew that we would exist and we would go through the same situations that we're going through. And the only difference between you and someone else going through the same situation and it's not affecting them is because they decided to put their trust in God and just give Him their life. Chukua tu life yangu you control. And just live it. Mimi staki kujikontrolia hii life. You take it. I don't want to be at the driver's seat. You take it. So those are the people who let his will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And this is the best part. Give us this day our daily bread. When you listen to God, he's just like, yani nimekupatia prayer yenye itakufunza venye hata wewe mwenyewe utaishi kwa hii maisha. Usishinde ukifikiria about kesho, kwa sababu hata kesho unaweza kosa kukua. Sisemi usiplan or usikuwe na an idea of how maybe tomorrow, if you had the chance venye itakuwa, or how you will live it, that is maybe through your savings or through a plan on how you look to survive through, rather thrive through. Tulisema tutumie jina survive this year. Thrive through the next days or weeks or years. And he's very precise on his prayer, the one that he left us, that give us this day, not this week. Ajakwambia ndakupatia chakula this week, ama this month, ama this year. It was give us this day, our daily bread. Like all we need to be doing every day we wake up, tukifungua tu hivi macho ni God, thank you very much for even letting me see a new day. And may you provide for me today. May you provide me the mercies, the grace to be able to get through today. And when I come out of it, whatever I'll get out of it, I'll glorify your name. Like that's how we're supposed to be. Like being expectant of the day, you know, because God will have already provided. So ni wewe tu kungoja kujua kaa leo ni pizza ama leo ni managu. We kazi yako ni kungoja. You're not supposed to ask questions hey God, na leo tunakula pizza ama tunakula managu. Wewe si umesema unataka chakula, nitakuprovidea. Just getting into that day with a level of faith, of knowing and understanding and believing that your day ata provide. Give us this day our daily bread, you know. And it's a beautiful thing because that's the Lord's prayer. Yeye ndo alituachia the prayer. Angetaka pia angesema give us this year our daily year, so that tujuange yenyewe mwaka mzima uko covered. But sahi anataka utake life a day at a time. That's what I'm getting, you know. Give us this day. So leo imeisha, kesho. Give us this day, imeisha, another day. Give us this day, and before you know it, you have taken steps. You take every day with its rest. Leo ukiamka, ukimanage kupata kenye umepata, unashukuru. Na kama hujapata, unashukuru. Kesho unaamka tena. Ukihope tu utapata. Na hata usipopata, unashukuru. Unaamka tena. Do you know the kind of level of faith you need to have in God to be okay in that weight, or to be okay in that lack of, and to be okay to feel that everything will be fine, even when you have no clue that it will be fine or when it will be fine. It is a very strong level of faith that God is asking of us. Nata si strong sana, nile tu kusema, by the way, I will not stress about this. I'm not allowing the devil to win over my mind by sending me anxiety, depression, and all these vices of making me feel self-sabotaging, being anxious, and all those. I will rest in the day and be like, it's okay. Leo imeisha, thank God, at least bado nimelala. Kesho nikiamka itakuwa siku ingine. And even tomorrow isipojipa, imagine shukuru. Juu siku yenye itajipa, na wewe utakuwa na strength ingine kubwa, because you've been in a lack period and there is nothing that will ever shatter or make you worry on whether you will ever survive anything as terrible as that. Because ushagonga rock bottom. Unaenda wapi beyond uko chini? Ushafika chini, uko chini kwa ground, the last ground of the grounds. So the only way you can go is up. So heri uappreciate if uko rock bottom, juu ni kumaanisha hata vitu zikirise, au taikuwa na worry ati inaenda rock bottom. Juu unajua hata ikawai happen, God forbid, that urudi rock bottom, you will have the strength to surpass all those feelings or emotions that might come with you. Na utakuwa na bigger strength and even better ways of handling that situation, because ni kitu uwaipitia before. It's just a familiar situation, you know. So I just want to you guys to have faith in that Lord's Prayer. and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Wase, I feel like sometimes tunakwanga na so much stress kwa sababu tumehold grudges. Uko na ma-stress zenye ni grudges na beefs zimekukosea. You need to forgive, just as you're asking for forgiveness from God. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. What I get with that is, lead us not into temptation. Every time you're doing something that is for temptation, mara mingi, haikuangi kitu mzuri. Tuseme tu kweli. Anything that inakupatia temptation, haikuangi kitu mzuri. Tuseme tu kweli. So you find that most times that you're depressed, you are falling into temptations just because you're broke, umeendea wa mamas, wa babas, and that is not maybe something that you'll have done on your normal state. You're depressed, you've gotten into alcoholism, drug abuse. When you're stressed and depressed, you always go for the things that are tempting, those that are things that are not meant for you or even supposed to be close to you. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. If you live through the Lord's Prayer, you will be amazed at the many things that God is speaking to us through that prayer. And it's that of by our Father who art in heaven. Like, you have a Father. You don't need anyone else on this earth for you to help, for them to help you come out of the situations that you're going through. You just need to kneel down and be like, oh, Father, I'm here. Like, that's your creator. He breathed life into you. So definitely you have to have so much trust in him. Na ata come through. And always praise him. Don't forget that everything that we do in this world is for the glory and honor of his name. And as long as you recognize him, he will never fail you. Mimi kaa kuna kitu moja najuanga, akunanga maombi ata moja ni moyomba God akaninyima. Hakuna hata moja. In fact, mubaki niko amazed, niko enyewe God unanipenda. Mi vile najiangalianga niko I'm such a sinner. Na bado unanisikizanga. Enyewe mi ni mtu wako. Enyewe mi ni mtoi wako, by the way. And it makes me feel so proud because I'm like, every time niko na shida, mi nitaenda tu kwa budangu. Nimwambie, mi manze dad, mi hapa nimekwama. Na need this and this and this. Unajua hata baba mzazi, hata huyu wa duniani utaenda umwambie nataka 2,000 akwambie leo sina, lakini relax tu nitakwambia. Anaweza kuja jioni akwambia ako nayo, ama arudi jioni akwambia hana. But doesn't mean atakupea. Maybe by next week atapata and then akuulize bado ulikuwa unadai hii story. But say, imagine a father who can give you everything and anything that you ask for. I think our faith in God needs to be stronger than the voices that are in our heads that are that negative to pulling us down and making us feel that we are nothing and we are in this hollow darkness pit that we can never get out of. And again, as I said, I would love to speak to anyone who feels that they're going through a tough time, because life is for the living, and it would be a pleasure to imagine that someone's life was changed by just a small conversation, a small talk that we had, and it made them feel way much better, So, yeah. Hey, I never thought nilikuwa na so much ya have conversation on that, but I'm so grateful that I was able to do this. I'm pretty sure this is going to be a recurrent episode, maybe in future, maybe when I have a panel, or maybe if I got anything new to speak about. But I'm so grateful that whoever has listened through this, I am almost sure that there's something good that they've come out of it. And if you have, please, by all means, share, like, subscribe or say, I'd love to see the growth. I'd love to be able to reach out to as many people as I possibly can. And your love and your feedback has been making me feel so motivated and and given me also some purpose in me doing this. And as I said, as long as one life is transformed, for me, work is done. Hapo nishafanya kazi. So thank you all for lending me your ears, and I can't believe we've spoken for so long. Like, this is probably going to be my longest episode, and I'm so thrilled to imagine that I had so much to say about it. And until next time, may you find favor and good success in the sight of God and man.